fingertip control of the 4 giant Olympus engines that develop 150,000 pounds of thrust. That's twice the power of the new Cunard liner, the Queen Elizabeth II. But in this aircraft, the fuel isn't simply used to feed the engines. It really has to pay its way. It helps to cool some of the aircraft systems during supersonic flight, just like the water in a car radiator helps keep the engine cool. And it's also used in a delicate system of balancing that I'll tell you about in a moment. This is a mock-up of the Concorde cabin. The aircraft is designed to be flown by 2 pilots and a flight engineer. The engineer sits over here, and in front of him is this apparently bewildering display of instruments which tell him at any given moment exactly what's happening to all the fuel in the aircraft in its 17 different tanks. And in this aircraft, that information is infinitely more important than it's ever been before. This is a model of the £1.25 million fuel rig up here for testing the complicated fuel systems. What happens with Concorde when it accelerates from subsonic speeds to Mach 2, 1400 miles an hour, is that the aerodynamic center of lift is moved backwards 5 feet. And this has the effect of making the nose of the aircraft drop down like this. It literally becomes nose heavy. So what they have to do is find some way of re-establishing the balance, so to speak, of moving the center of gravity backwards. So what they've done is to work out a system of pumping fuel from tanks at the front right through to tanks at the back and readjusting the center of gravity so that the aircraft is in its right position again. When it's decelerating, the same system operates, but in reverse. Fuel is pumped from the back to the tanks at the front, and once more the aircraft is in its right position. This rig with all its interconnected fuel tanks is an exact replica of the modified system that will go into the first Concorde to actually carry fare-paying passengers in about 3 years' time. The tank down here holds 1,000 gallons, and it's a direct feed to one of the engines, and in turn it's kept topped up by the tanks around it. At full power for takeoff, this tank could be emptied in 6 minutes. The pumps that feed the engine are tucked away underneath here, and there are 35 of them in the aircraft, either feeding direct to the engines or moving the fuel around from tank to tank. Inside this box down here, there's a simple ball-cock valve, and it's just like the one in a domestic water system. It's there to make sure that at all times this tank is kept up to the right level with fuel. Incidentally, because Concorde's cruising height is 55,000 feet, the tanks all have to be pressurized to make sure that the fuel doesn't evaporate. And another problem, because Concorde consumes fuel at such a tremendous rate, this gadget down here has had to be fitted as well. It's an emergency fuel reservoir. It will keep the engines running for up to 10 seconds in case the aircraft hits an air pocket, drops suddenly when the fuel would tend to rise to the top of the tank away from the pumps. It's just as though you were suddenly dropping in a very fast lift and your stomach hits the roof of your mouth. Before the fuel gets to the engines to be burnt, it has to do its job of cooling some of the aircraft's other systems. So over the engines, they've built a series of heat exchangers. There's enough heat extracted by the exchangers in cooling the cabin air and all the hydraulic mechanisms to centrally heat a street of average-sized family houses. The current series of fuel tests, both in the air and on the computer-controlled rig, are crucial to Concorde's future. Such an enormous amount of fuel has to be carried in relation to the number of passengers, half its weight at takeoff, that any unexpected increase in drag at 1400 miles an hour cruising speed would mean that more fuel would be needed, and so fewer passengers could be carried. And if that happens, Concorde might then become commercially uneconomic for the airlines to operate. This is the second Concorde to be built in Britain, but already Britain and France together have spent £500 million on the project, and there's still, on present figures, another £330 million to go. The money's being spent at the rate of £2 million a week, so the £1.25 million cost of the fuel rig seems comparatively small. But it's very easy to be dazzled by these astronomical figures. The simple fact is that long before the French Concorde took to the air, the rig had already detected faults in the fuel system, and had these gone uncorrected, they would have involved very long and very expensive delays in the flight testing program. So in terms of money saved, the rig has more than paid for itself already. And with several £100 million still to go, I suppose that's quite a comforting thought.